Hey everybody, this is 3.7 for our principles class, and in this section we're really starting to work with the concept of percentages and how percentages how we can use percentages to solve problems. One of the things that we deal with a lot is trying to understand what we mean by a percent and how does that apply to other numbers. And so what we have to realize is the percent symbol, okay, you may or may not see it the way that I do, but I see a division symbol right through the middle of that. So percent literally means to divide, and then you start looking at the zeros. There are two zeros or circles that are drawn as part of the percent symbol. Those zeros are part of, in my mind, what represents the 100. See those two zeros in the 100. So this percent sign literally means divide by 100. So when I say 95%, what I really mean is 95 divided by 100. And that is the decimal 0.95. Okay, so when we talk about percentages, we're really talking about this concept of dividing by 100. That's at the heart of what percentages are. And so one option that we can always use when we talk about using proportions to solve, okay, when we say what percent, okay, what divided by 100 of 75 is 27. So, we want to talk about how do we build these proportions, build these ratios. I'm going to give you probably the most direct route I can when it comes to solving this. 3 through 19, I think we can build them all the same way and solve them, independent of using proportions or just going for a direct route. I think we can use this direct route. So a couple things. First off, the word what we're always going to represent with an X. Okay? We're going to represent the word what with an X. All right, that's pretty straightforward. The word is we're always going to represent with an equal sign. So if we go through these three right here, I've just created an X and an equal sign. Now, if it says what percent, like this first question, I'm going to have to come back to that in a second. Okay, that needs to be dealt with in a minute. I'll deal with it later. But otherwise, the word of is a multiplication. So if I take and I turn my ofs into multiplications, we're pretty well set. Let's take a look at these three, and it's really the same way through the rest of the assignment. But here, number 3 says x of 75, so that'd be x times 75 is 27. Now the question is, how do I get x alone? To get x alone, because I'm times by 75, I simply divide both sides by 75. That'll get rid of this, and x will equal, let's grab our calculator, and we're going to take 27 divided by 75 to get 0.36. Now this is where we mean something has to be done. Okay, 0.36, just like 0.95 is 95%, 0.36 is the same as 36%. So when we're asking for percent, we're going to move that decimal 2 spaces to the right to turn it into a percentage. Along that same line, if we look at number 5, it says what, that's x, is my equal sign, 35%. Okay, I can't use the percent symbol in my mathematics, so I have to turn this 35 into a 0.35. Of means times and 80. Now, look at this. Our x is completely alone already. I don't have to do any fancy math. I just need to figure out what 0.35 times 80 is. 0.35 times 80 is 28. 35% of 80 is 28. Last one we're going to do, number 7, 81 is, okay, so we're going to bring this number 7 down over here. 81 is our equal sign, 54%, but it's got a percent sign. I got to get rid of that. So I will use 0.54 of means to multiply what number would be x. Again, I see multiplication with x, so I divide by 0.54, divide by 0.54. You divide by whatever's sitting there next to x, and 81 divided by 0.54 is 150. So x is 150. Now this should make sense. Okay, if I want to have 54% of something be 81, I have to realize 81 is not the biggest version. It's only 54% of this number. So the number's got to be bigger. So 150, sure enough, if I took 81 and divided it by 150, I would get 0.54, meaning that 81 is 54% of the 150 total. As you keep coming down, the same thing keeps happening. Right here, solving percent problems. Answer the question when n is 25. So we are going to start this at the very beginning by putting a 25 in here and rewriting the problem. 25 plus 94, let's make sure we get it right. 25 plus 94 is 119. So now I can get rid of all of this and just use 119. So I'm asking you to do a little bit of algebra to begin the problem. And then it's the same thing. What is x? It's a percent. Of means multiplication. 140 is 119. To solve for x, because I multiplied by 140, I divide by 140 on both sides. Over here it cancels. X equals, and 119 divided by 140 is 0.85. Now I remember that when I'm being asked for a percentage, right, what percent, I need to turn this into a percent by pushing the decimal back 2 spots to make 85%. That's what you're going to do for the most part. The last thing is to figure out the percent, okay, that exists. And so all we're going to do is take our smaller number divided by our larger number. If you want to know how much tip you gave in a taxi, you take your tip, $3, and you divide it by the fare, or the amount that it actually cost, $18.70. And let's figure out what our percent tip is. So 3 divided by 18.7 is 0.160. All right, 0.160. Now I only need to move it 2 places. So if I move it 1, 2, that gives me 16. I don't need the 0.0, so we just call it a 16% tip. It's a big tip, but maybe that's the normal tipping rate for a taxi. I don't know. I don't take a taxi. So that's it, guys. We're going to do a lot of percentage stuff. Hopefully that makes sense and it's pretty easy to get through. If you have questions, let me know.